It's April 2021, and you're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson. We're also joined by our co-host, Robert Kibler. In today's episode, we're going to be talking with book illustrator and writer, Roxi Mathis. We'll also have the results of our quiz, our last episode's quiz, as well as a student presentation to close things off. Roxi Mathis, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to start off by asking you about your books. I just recently saw some of the covers for your books. These look incredible. These are wonderful. And we're going to show some of those on the screen right now. So tell us about this. How did you get started creating these books?
I've been an artist for my whole life, pretty much. And I've always loved art that tells a story. And actually this book that we're talking about, Crescent Moon Cat, this book I actually wrote because my husband came up with a song off the top of his head about the cat that inspired the story. She was laying on the couch and she was in a little crescent moon shape, and he made up a song about her. And I just wrote it down and kept going with the story and made a whole book out of it. It was a lot of fun. But I've been writing since I was in 8th grade. I wrote a book about a moose on the loose and rewrote it, re-illustrated it as an adult right out of college, and had quite a bit of local success with it, personal success with it, and just kept going from there. And I've illustrated a couple other books that other people have written, and just really enjoy the illustration process. And I use it as much as I can in my graphic design job as well. We actually don't have any orange cats, and the cat in the book is orange. But, artistic license, can change it up a little bit here and there.
So you mentioned that you also illustrate your books. Can you talk about some of the illustration work that you've done for other books?
The first book that I did for somebody else was this story that a friend of mine wrote for their mom about the friendship between a hamster and a firefly. And they never intended for it to be anything more than just a story, but their mom decided that it needed to be a children's book. And we kind of ran with the whole project, and it turned out to be a really good, really fun project. And it really taught me a lot about working with other people on an illustration project. So that was really fun. And I've had another one by a local teacher who wrote a book about a papa gnome and his magical tree stump home. And it's all about more friendship stuff between kids and getting, to know each other and stuff like that. It was a really good experience. I have another one coming up that I'm pretty excited about that I can't really talk about the details about, but it is pretty exciting. I'm really happy with the illustrations so far, and the story is right up my alley. It's very whimsical and fun and silly, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, Roxy, and if I could gnome at home, fireflies, mooses on the looses, and then this cat and the moon, they all seem kind of light and fun. And would you sort of describe that as your artistic vision to, divide colorful, light, fun art and verse, or is this just all misnomer?
Well, no, I do like the light, happy, whimsical kind of stuff, and I don't like to get too serious about that. I'll let other people that know more about that stuff than I do to get serious with things. I feel like I would rather write books that are fun and silly and engaging, and that encourage kids to read. And particularly I try to include words that are not, I want to talk to kids like they're adults, basically. I don't want to talk down to them. I want them to read words they might not be familiar with at once. And then as they read it and they pick it up, they start to learn these different words that aren't typical in children's books. But like I said, I don't want to talk down to them. But I'd also like to keep it fun and whimsical, and mix it all together.
Are they mostly kids' books? And I mentioned, the focus on kids. You 2 years in a row have helped my son work the potter's wheel at Knotstock. and he thinks you're a goddess. And then of course you got your book, and that just confirmed it. But is there a particular draw towards children and appealing to children with your art, or again, is that just something that's a phase right now? But Moose on the Loose seems like I could be wrong, but it sounds like it's geared towards a younger audience too.
Yeah, that one is for younger kids. It's very repetitive and simplistic. And but no, I like to do the children's books illustrations, just because I love kids. I like helping kids and showing them the way and teaching art and stuff like that for kids and for adults too. But my art otherwise, besides the children's books, isn't necessarily geared towards children. It's more of an adult, like everybody kind of style.
If I could ask, what would you say your inspirations as an artist have been for your writing and for your other art?
Well, it varies. Obviously, for the cat book, it was a literal cat. For the moose book, it was an assignment in school. For my most recent art show that traveled around the state, it was my eye surgeries that I had because I had a detached retina. So I had 3 eye surgeries dealing with that, and a lot of recovery time. And so there was all kinds of like crazy visual stuff that I was seeing while my eye was healing. And I just used that as inspiration and drew what I was seeing. North Dakota is always part of my inspiration because I'm from Amadon, which is down by Medora, because nobody knows where Amadon is. It's right there in the Badlands, and so the landscape is always important to me. I grew up on a horse ranch, so we were out in the landscape, and there had a lot of important, experiences as a kid, out in the wilderness, basically. And of course, growing up in a horse ranch inspires me to make pictures of horses too. I'm a horse girl, can't help it, But yeah, so the nature that's around me, the people that are around me, the pets that are around me.
If I can ask Roxy, you mentioned that these are books and you write them and you illustrate them. How much of your artistic impulse is directed towards writing? And are you mostly a visual artist, or are you moving in a different direction, or is it, again, this barometer change?
It does change, but I'm mostly visual. I am not much of a writer. That's why I stick to children's books, because they're on my level. But no, the children's books are always important to me. Wow, I've lost my train of thought again.
Well, I was just sort of thinking that you've got very sort of pragmatic, a surgery here, a cat there, or your inspiration, and those are, when you ask an artist what their inspiration is, often it's deep, soulful stuff. But it reminds me that, like James Joyce and his Ulysses, one of the greatest works in literature, somebody did a biography on him, and that biographer would say, so when you said this, did you mean this? And when you're hooked up with the metaphysics, and it was the astrology? And he said, yeah, all that. So let others build up the compendium of Roxi Mathis complication. You can,
right. Let them
do it with the art surgery and the cat.
Let other people come up with the inspirations for me. Yeah, the meanings behind all that. It is fun though when I talk to people that are at my shows, when they see my eyeball art stuff that have had eye surgeries, and they say that they recognize these shapes that I'm drawing. Like they saw those too when they had their eye surgeries, and they understand it. So I get a little bit of that validation, and you can kind of connect with people like that. So that's always fun. I don't have a lot of like deep meaning to everything. Sometimes there's underlying currents of information in my art, but nothing that's too deep or crazy or universal.
Well, can I ask you, deep down in that ranch in the wilderness where you grew up, were you the like the odd child, the eccentric child, or what was it in your upbringing and your family that Are you all artists, or are you the only one?
Well, I am the only artist. I mean, the other people in my family are very creative. My mom makes a lot of creative stuff. My sister made art when she was younger, but I'm the only like art is my job kind of person in my family. I'm a little bit of a black sheep, but ultimately we're all pretty creative. And I've had like the most supportive parents in the world. They, even though I had some people in my life that would tell me that, art, it's a starving artist life and it's hard and, you're not going to make any money doing that. My parents were never those people. My parents would always bring home art supplies for me, and they'd always encourage me, and they'd always give me honest critique on everything and give me ideas and all kinds of like, so I had the most supportive parents in the world, even though a lot of other people were telling them that Roxy's never going to make art, never going to make money with her art, including my grandma. So, but they're always there for me. And my sister taught me how to draw when I was really little. She's older than I am. And I had 3 brothers that were always supportive as well.
And up here in Minot, you're also part of, I think, a pretty supportive local art community here. And I wonder if you could talk about the community in Minot and how it supports, or what relationship you have to it, and how extensive it is, and is it an underground force that surfaces in different buildings, or what?
Yeah, the art scene in Minot is actually really impressive for a small Midwestern town. We have a lot of interesting people and interesting ideas, and driven people is the most important thing. We have people who really care and want to put their time and their money and their efforts towards it and get everybody interested. And so even people that might otherwise not be interested in the arts get interested, because we have such a community that is vocal, and they do try to get things out there, and they support the local artists that are working. They try to, support their works by buying their things or introducing them to other people or advertising their work or showing up when they perform. So it's a great community to be a part of. And there's so many different viewpoints in the art scene. One of my favorite things is just to hang out with other artists and talk shop just here in town, and just like get those opinions flying and have everybody like inspiring each other and working together. There's a lot of collaborative things that are happening in town that are great too. Yeah, it's a great art scene in Minot. I really couldn't praise it anymore.
So I was going to ask a question, and I'm gonna set this up just a little bit. So we have 2 kids, and they're both really micro, 3 and 5, and we read a lot of books with them. And we've been advised, and we haven't done this yet. We haven't let them use a computer yet, an iPad, anything with the screen. Anytime they go after one of our phones, we're like, no, let's stay away from that. Just because we want to impress upon them the physicality of the books and the things like that. And it's kind of ironic, because I've been trying to reduce my books, because it's like, well, I don't want to lift these things anymore, so I want everything digital. But for the kids, it's like, no, the best stuff is physical kids' books. Because you open them and the kids look at them and they point and they see the color and they see the characters and the dialogue. And then there's all the repetition of moving the pages and asking them to do it. And I mean, it's just a whole show performance every time these kids to jump into the books. They love it. So that is the setup to my question. Here's my question. So what do you think about that move to keep kids away from digital devices, and to gear them more toward physical books? Is this something that you've encountered, this particular question? What do you think?
I haven't encountered that question before. I guess I don't have kids, so I don't know that that's a thing, but it makes sense to me. When I watch kids dealing with screens, they just turn into zombies. For some reason, humans want to look at screens, and when we do, we just go blank. And so, yeah, I think that having physical objects, whether it's reading or toys or art or just things, is more, it's that tangible world that you're living in, instead of the digital world that is just in your mind. I think it helps keep kids grounded and interacting more with the people that are around them physically. It sounds like a good movement to me. I've always been a fan of talking to kids like they're adults treating them like they're adults. Because I, as a kid, I didn't like being talked down to, and I know kids don't like being talked down to. And I've had my friends who are parents that read my book comment on some of the words that their kids maybe don't usually encounter, and if they appreciate that it's not too simple. It's something that they can use to climb the ladder to the next thing and get that exposure for a little bit bigger words, a little bit words they're not used to, and just get them thinking about other ways of expressing themselves, other ways of describing the world around them.
So my last question is, if folks who are watching are interested in being able to get some of your books, how would they do that? Where should they contact you? Is there a particular place they could go?
Yes, they can go to Amazon.com. You can get print on demand. You can find the Crescent Moon Cat with my name behind it. It's the SEO on it is still a little small, so you got to type in the whole thing. And you can also buy it on my website. And you can either, if you're local, you can pick it up from me, or I can ship it, and it's available online.
And if you would, if you could tell us your website, I'll go ahead and I'll just throw that back on the screen as soon as you mention that. I'll have it over. So I'll say, so Roxy, what's your website?
My website is roximathisart.com.
roximathisart.com. Roxi Mathis, thank you again. Thank you so much for being on the show today and helping us out.
Thank you. And thank you for putting up with my can't keep track of my thoughts thing.
Yeah, it's okay. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back. We are back, and as you probably can tell, I'm drinking out of my Lookout coffee mug. The idea is, if you decide to appear on the Lookout, we will provide you with one of these as a parting gift. Unfortunately, we don't have them yet, but the plan is to get these. And they will look a little bit different. You'll have the wraparound image. And mine has a little bit of a red on the inside, but yours will probably not be if you do decide to be on the program. And Roxi Mathis, thank you for being on the show again. And our plan is to get you one of these as soon as possible.
Thank you.
I also want to take a moment again to mention that if you want to reach out to Roxi Mathis, here's her contact information. And also if you want to check out some of her books. Well, we've reached that point in the program yet again where we have to bid you adieu. But before we go, I want to first of all remind you again, this is Minot State University. Be seen, be heard, be inspired. And thank you for watching. But before you go, we have a student performance to play us out. This is Hannah DePlazis, cello, as part of her senior recital, along with Brian Schwann, piano. They are playing the first movement of the Sonata in C major, Opus 119 by Sergei Prokofiev. Thanks again.